Work.
Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Double Coverage, the premier NFL podcast of the Gin Sports Network. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on a Tuesday, the 22nd of November, 2022. I'm here with Musa Basal. Musa, how are we doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great. It's been such a great week of football for Lions fans this week. So excited for this week.
Yeah, Lions fans have a reason, finally, to have some hope. And going 3-0 in the last three, I mean, we got to take baby steps here when we're talking about the Lions, because small wins are big wins in Detroit, especially given the track record that they've had and what they've done, the disservice that they've provided to the fans over the years. And it's easy to criticize, but I think we have to take pride in one pride, which is the Detroit Lions franchise, and it's in our own state. So whether we're fans or not, it's an important thing to look at and to take note of. This week we have a big contest. We're going to be talking about their game against the Bills this Thursday on Thanksgiving. It's a tradition unlike any other. The Lions and the Cowboys playing on Thanksgiving against respected opponents, and they always have a nightcap game as well. So we'll be talking about that one towards the end of the show, but we have a couple other pieces of business to attend to before we get to that point. So thanks again for joining us, whether you're listening in or tuning in via video or audio. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So let's jump in. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos, coming up short against the Raiders, and it was a tough game to watch. Let's just put it that way. Let's put it bluntly. Musa, I know you're a devout Denver Broncos fan, Russell Wilson fan. What happened in this game, and what does the future of the Denver Broncos look like going forward?
I saw a lot of promise in this game. Nathaniel Hackett gave up play calling, and you saw significant improvement in this offense. They were marching down the field. They scored on their first possession this game, and they were looking good. Very end of the game, Raiders Derek Carr had a great drive with I think around a minute left on the clock, no timeouts. He went down and he got the field goal. So Devontae Adams wide open, getting them downfield, and then Devontae Adams wide open in overtime to give them the win. So, like once again, a very close game. 6 out of 7 losses the Broncos had this year have been one-score games. A missed field goal cost them this game. They've had missed field goals in the past that would have won them games. So I think it's really mistakes. Like the talent is there. Obviously, they haven't executed on all cylinders yet, but like they've been putting a point. They've been close games, and there's a point you can name any set of events that could have been different that would have won them the game. So there's potential, and in terms of next year, Nathaniel Hackett has to go. He's just not cut out to be a head coach.
Yeah, I think they tried him out. They gave him a run, and it was just not good enough. Whether you look at the rest of the season, whether you got 7-8 games left, whatever it is. Looking at the future, looking at this season, there's still a good chunk of games left. So there's time for Nathaniel Hackett and the entire coaching core of the Denver Broncos to somewhat redeem themselves. But like you said, a lot of these games that they've played, they've came down to one score, one possession. And with this game going into overtime, both teams now 3-7. You're looking at a game like this, and you expect to, it's a 50-50. If you go into overtime, it's a 50-50 no matter what. Looking at the caliber and look at what both these teams have accomplished this year, which isn't much, and it's not great. And I think we can speak for both of these teams here. When we had high hopes. You have the Devontae Adams trade going over to the Las Vegas Raiders. You got Russell Wilson going over to the Broncos. You got some new movement, high hopes. With even looking back into the John Gruden scandal last year with the Raiders and seeing their revival, seeing if they could come and reemerge from the shadows as a good team, a good franchise in Las Vegas. And we just didn't see that this year. We didn't see the chemistry. A lot of expectations were left out in the rain, and there was no meat on the bone, basically, with both of these teams. But that doesn't mean that they're down and out as far as a franchise. It doesn't mean they're doomed from the start, because they weren't. They were maybe put on somewhat of a pedestal at the start a little bit more than they should have been, and I'm guilty of both of I'm guilty of feeling that way towards both of these teams, really. I'm a big Russell Wilson guy, still am. And I think he's really got a bad rep. His name has been drugged through the mud a lot this year, and it's not all on him. So I think that you gotta kind of give him some slack, cut him some slack here, and give him faith. He's still got some good years left in the NFL, and I think if you put him in a position where he has the tools that he can utilize, now losing Melvin Gordon, that's just amongst one of many dominoes that are yet to fall for the Denver Broncos, I think, before the season's out. You need to give him the tools he needs to succeed. The quarterback position is a position that is to command the team, to command the offense, have some significant influence on the defense. But if you don't provide that quarterback with the tools he needs, then you're already setting him up on the wrong foot. So I guess, what do you have to say about Russell Wilson, his performance this year, and the future of the Denver Broncos, given the fact that Russell Wilson will likely be their quarterback for the next couple years?
I don't hate Russ. He has seen it all. He's lost a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl, and like he said, he's been through it. So people talking, he says it doesn't faze him. Obviously, he's human at the end of the day. So in some shape or form, it does affect him and it does faze him. But he has a great point of seeing it all, and he knows what it's like to lose. He knows what it's like to win, and I think he wants to win. And I think he puts too much on himself, and he needs someone around him to help him with that, and he needs to take a little load off himself so he can perform a little better and not try and do everything himself. I think we saw it with the Super Bowl with Marshawn Lynch why didn't they run the ball? And I think that comes down to Russ wanting to be in possession, him wanting to win the game. And I think we need a coach that will kind of take that away from him a little bit, even though he might not like that.
Yeah, I guess a question that has to be asked too is who is calling the plays? Is it Nathaniel Hackett or the OC calling those plays, or is it Russell Wilson calling those plays? Because I think if you put the playbook in the hands of Russell Wilson to have the autonomy and the decision making to say, hey, I want to do this with this team. I know the players I have. I know the tools that I have to work with. Maybe I'm limited. Maybe I'm not. But no matter how you slice it, who's making that call? Like you said, the Marshawn Lynch, decision to pass the ball. Is that Pete Carroll's call, or is that Russ's call? Because I think that's a tough call, no matter what side you're on, whether you're in the coaching core, if you're in the booth upstairs, or if you're Russell Wilson under center. I think it's kind of a tough call to make. I don't know if we'll ever get that answer truly, but at some point you got to let the quarterback do the job. And I think Russ has been in the game long enough where he has the ability to take the playbook into his own hands and say, hey, maybe this is the plays that we're supposed to run, but if we want to win games, this is the plays we're going to run. And kind of just let him run with it. I mean, I think that makes the entire team look better. At least try it out. And I mean, at the end of the day, the quarterback's out there making the plays and doing what he has to do anyway. Is Russ going to be replaced? Probably not. A significant amount of money was spent to acquire him in the Denver Broncos roster. So it's kind of up in the air, and there's a lot of different things to unpack with the Denver Broncos and their failures this year. And it's a very complex issue, something you can't even really talk about in one show. So looking at that very objectively, it's a complicated situation with putting it as clear and as concise as we can. But there's no doubt that the Broncos have some work to do when it comes to being a successful and winning football team and being a team that is a force to be reckoned with, which, with a quarterback like Russell Wilson, you expect to have a team that is, dominant, at least in the offensive side. We saw glimpses of that this past Sunday against the Raiders, but it was too little too late, and you can't do well on offense and sustain that lead without a solid defense. And I think that's where they've really fallen short and really fallen on their nose and maybe lost some of these one-possession games is because of their defense. What do you have to say about the Broncos' defense, just real quick?
This is a game where the defense lost them the game. They had the lead. The Raiders had no timeouts, and they marched down the field and scored a field goal. Almost won it before overtime. So I think earlier in the year, the defense was playing really, really good football. They are close games. So this is the one game where I can put the blame on the defense for them losing and not really blame the offense. But I think most cases this year, it's been the offensive not scoring, not getting down the field, and not winning. And as for the Russell Wilson calling plays, they have nothing to lose. They might as well experiment and find out what works and what doesn't for next year, because you're not making the playoffs this year. It's just out of the question.
Yeah, that's true. Just experiment with some things and see what works, see what you can kind of work on in the off season and really dive into and expound on next year. Expand. You want to be able to expand on the successes that you have and eliminate the failures that you've experienced throughout this season, which there's a long laundry list of those on there. So we'll see what they do. We'll see what they wind up doing. And I wish the Broncos and Russell Wilson all the best. Let's move on. Let's talk about Jeff Saturday and the Colts after they nearly beat the Eagles, losing by a single point, 17-16. The Philadelphia Eagles win it. It's proven fact that the Eagles are the real deal. We've seen them win several games, only one loss, one blemish on their record, that being to the Commanders. Are the Eagles out of shape, or are the Colts just playing really good football under Jeff Saturday? That's the question that has to be asked. What do you say?
I think it's a mix of both. The Eagles were coming off that loss last week to the Commanders, and they didn't play great football. The Colts played really good. They had to lead the whole game up until the very end, and I think credit Jeff Saturday. And I think a lot of people are going to try to lean towards, the Eagles are just not playing good. They're not things, and they want to take away from Jeff Saturday. Give Jeff Saturday all the credit he deserves. He's leading this team. The team is playing well under him. Even if the Eagles are out of shape. Even though the Eagles are not playing at their top form, what he did this Sunday was impressive, and it's his only second game as a head coach. He's doing better than Nathaniel Hackett. I think maybe the Broncos should maybe pick up Jeff Saturday. So we'll see.
Hey, that could be an interesting twist. I think Jeff Saturday is more or less cemented in Indianapolis, but that's an interesting development that would really stir the pot. Talking about the coaching carousel that we'll be running into here in the next few months and in the offseason. We'll be talking about the coaching carousel, different movements, different trades, different prospects, different recruits that will be graduating or will be declaring for the draft. So there's a lot to talk about, too. I think that has to be noted for the DCP. Once the football season's over, that doesn't mean our jobs are finished. We still have a lot of NFL-related content to produce, and there's a lot of things that will be surrounding the league. So stay focused for that. That's something that we fell short on last year, touching on some coaching carousel stuff. We've more or less diverted and switched that to the GSN pod. But I want to put that out there is that we're going to be covering a lot of that coaching carousel stuff. There's still a lot to talk about in the offseason. I mean, we can make some early predictions, and maybe we don't have to do it right now, but I think we can see a lot of movement within the head coaching department across the league, just given what we've seen this year. Obviously, certain people, certain coaches, head coaches are cemented in. They have deals where they are going to be cemented in as long as they're producing and doing the bare minimum as far as wins and losses in the record column. I mean, we're going to be looking at that. And the NFL is a business. We talked about that pre-stream. The NFL is a production business. If you're not producing, if you're not getting the job done, if you're not putting wins in the win column and minimizing the losses and the bad losses in the loss column, then you're going to, you're going to find out what's going on with your future. Okay, you got to produce or else you're gone, basically. So we've seen that happen already with the Frank Reich firing and Jeff Saturday being hired. And just to talk on Jeff Saturday real quick, I think that's a great hire. I think it's proven to be a great hire just within the last couple weeks. And obviously there's a long way to go. There's going to be trials and tribulations. There's going to be hard times. They're going to face hard knocks. And we're going to see how Jeff Saturday mitigates that. And they have a glimpse of it right here. I wouldn't even call this a loss, really, losing by 1 point to a team that's 8-1. I mean, you got to be somewhat happy with yourself with that and what you're able to produce and what the other regime under Frank Reich would have been able to produce with the Colts. What would they have done? Would they have even came close? Those are questions you got to ask. Obviously, they're in the past now, but I like the Jeff Saturday hire. I think he has a lot of potential, one, as a head coach, and two, being with the team that he basically knows very well. He knows the dynamics. He knows the facilities. He knows a lot of the higher-ups, the owners. And some people might say that's a conflict of interest, but I think it's a great way to mend those relationships and to keep those relationships close is to use somebody that you know well. Use somebody that you feel good about having in your facilities, having in your locker room, having in your weight room, and somebody that's a familiar face. I don't think there's any reason for discrimination or scrutiny for that. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. The Colts have made their decision. Let me ask you this. Has he been cemented? So I know that he's labeled as the interim head coach for the Colts. Has he been cemented in as the standing head coach of the Colts, or is that yet to be decided?
I don't think it's been decided yet. It's only been 2 games, so it'd be very early to decide.
It's true. That'll be an interesting development.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think if they're going to find success, they're going to be winning games. They're going to be like, okay, this guy's done it for a couple games, 2, 3, 4 games, and he's going to be our guy. So that's going to be up to the owners and the higher-ups, the board of commissioners and whatnot within the Indianapolis Colts higher-up head offices. So we'll keep an eye on that one, and we'll focus on it going into the future weeks. Moving on, let's talk about the Commanders. They are now 6-5, and they have been under the radar. Should teams be worried about them? Taylor Heineke is a force to be reckoned with. He has found success, as of late, and they're looking good. They're looking good. I don't know, this is kind of off topic, not really though, but Jeff Bezos has talked about buying the Commanders, and I don't know if that has any relation to it. They're beating a team that's 1-8, 1-9. In the Houston Texans, terrible team, terrible, 1-8, 1-8-1. And I throw that tie in there, that first game against the Colts, throw that in there as a loss. I wouldn't even throw it. Ties should go down as losses. I'm sorry. They should. They don't do
Yeah.
anything for the record. They don't do anything for wild card week. And adding that extra game, I think, is to mitigate the tie scenario. So maybe it's a good option. We have an extra game, but I think it goes down as a loss. But tell me about the Commanders. What does their future look like? They are now over 500. What does their future hold?
I don't know. I haven't been impressed. The only impressive win they've had was over this Eagles team, and you can credit that down to the Eagles not playing well or what, but I don't see it. Their wins are against bad teams, and they're just scraping by. I think they're just going to be an average team. And if we look back at the rest of their schedule, they don't have the easiest schedule going forward. They're at the Falcons, then they have the Giants back to back with a bye week in between. And then they're at the 49ers. The 49ers are a very legit team. The Browns, I think that one goes to the Browns and the Cowboys. So they can very well end the year off with 4 losses to the Giants, the 49ers, the Browns, and the Cowboys. So you could hope they get the win next week against the Falcons, but I think that's the only game that's really a winnable game for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you gotta give them credit for beating the Eagles, giving them their only loss. You gotta give them credit. Got to give credit where credit's due. But like you said, they have a long season to go. We're only just past the halfway point, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot of games left, a lot to see, a lot to unfold, and we have an extended season. We have 18 games in the regular season this year, so we have to focus on that. And someone's got to explain to me why they have the Giants back to back. I mean, I know the Lions play the Packers twice, but is there any explanation for that? Is that because or due to the 18 team or 18 game format, or what's going on there, Musa? Do you have any insight there?
I mean, there's a bye week in between. I'm guessing it has to do with 18 games. I don't create schedules. I don't know. But I'm guessing maybe with 18 games, there's like one game that will have to be back to back if they change it around. But I feel like there should be a way to have it where they're not playing a team back to back, even though
Yeah.
there is a bye week in between. So it's not back to back, but it's back to back for them. So we were talking about it a little bit earlier. It's interesting to see, like, if the Commanders lose, they have nothing to look forward to after the bye week besides maybe like getting a revenge game. But like, if you go into the bye week getting blown out by the Giants, it's gonna be a tough bye week. You're gonna, because the only thing on your mind is like, we play them again in 2 weeks. We don't have another game to reset. We don't have anything else to get like reset. So I wonder if it works as an advantage because you'll be really focused and really locked in. You really want that revenge game, or it could be a curse. So I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it could go either way. That is my Uncle John. Hey, John boy, what's going on? Uncle John over there in Canada, across the water. Lucas and my cousin Lucas and Sam, my brother, were both at the Bills-Browns game at Ford Field over the weekend. I think they ran into each other, so that was kind of cool to hear that. So cheers to you guys up north in Canada. I think you guys are actually geographically south of us, but thank you for tuning in tonight on a Tuesday. But yeah, just to talk about that back-to-back Giants, game scenario, whatever you want to call it. It is an opportunity, I think, for both teams to, and it only really works for these teams. It's going to really regard what can we do right the first time, and what can we do to surprise the other team if we say you're the Commanders and say you win the first bout with the Giants. You got to think about, okay, what are we going to do differently the next game to surprise them? Because they're going to know your entire playbook. They're going to know your schemes. They're going to know your formations, everything like that. It poses a interesting development, an interesting scenario, because you have that team back to back. You don't really see that a lot in a NFL professional regular season schedule, right? I'm going to be interested to see how the first game plays out compared to the second game, because that's going to be it's just going to be interesting to see, because I don't think I've ever seen a back-to-back team play each other. I just haven't seen it. So I'm interested to see it. You got a bye week in there, so that throws another interesting development into the equation. So we'll see what happens there. Giants coming off a big loss against the Lions. We're going to talk about that in a second. And, yeah, I mean, let's just jump right into the Lions. Let's talk about the Lions. The Lions, 3 wins in a row. I mean, take baby steps, 3 wins. And I have to declare it. I have to talk about it every time. I'm not a Lions fan. I have to say it here live. I have to say it here on recording. You can see my face. You know it's me. I don't have a gun to my head. Trust me when I say this. I'm not a Lions fan. But I have expressed interest in the Lions. I've expressed interest in Dan Campbell and, the entire Lions core, the core that they have. So, Musa, let me just ask you real quick, and we'll have a conversation about it. What has attributed to the Lions winning 3 games in a row for the first time since 2017? And how did they basically, I don't want to say blow out, how did they blow out, how did they beat the Giants, this good Giants team, by a significant margin? What happened?
They blew out the Giants. So, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, the defense has been playing amazing ever since they fired the defensive back coordinators. They've played great football. So the defense has showed up. Aiden Hutchinson has showed up. One of the best defensive ends in all of the NFL with everyone. And as a rookie, definitely the best rookie defensive end out there, performing like we needed him to, performing the way we wanted him to. So that's that part. So the defense is finally getting some stops and showing up, which is great. They were able to stop Saquon Barkley. He's been a force to be reckoned with this year, averaging 4.7 yards per carry. The Lions held him to 1.5 yards per carry, 22 yards, 15 attempts. And Barkley sees the ball a lot. He has like the second most attempts as a running back in the NFL right now. So Aaron Glenn said they're going to overload the box, take away Saquon Barkley, and make the Giants win in the air. And the Giants could not win in the air. Now, first time since 2017, 3 in a row, back-to-back road wins. And the team's finally getting healthy. Jameson Williams back at practice, breaking news this week. So if he plays against the Bills, it'll be a little exciting. So I think the culture is finally taking place. People are finally healthy, and everything's falling together.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Only time will tell, right? We still got a long season ahead of us. We still got a lot of games, right? We got 8 games. We got 8 games left for the Lions, right? So big win, 31-18 over the Giants, putting them at 7-3. They were 7-2 going into this one. Like you said, back-to-back road wins, big-time wins by significant margins. You beat the Bears by a point last week, and you go to the Giants' place and you beat them 31-18. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And if you're getting the job done, if you're getting wins in the win column, that's making Dan Campbell very happy. That's making Lions fans happy. It's giving them high hopes. What I would tell Lions fans is take this win right here, first 3-0 streak since 2017. Take it with a grain of salt because there's trials and tribulations ahead of us. Does that mean that we're going to lose a lot of games? But there's a certain scenario that we'll go over here in a second. Musa, I'll let you paint that picture for me. But there's a certain storyline that has to be followed if you're the Detroit Lions, if you want to make it in the playoffs and make it to the postseason. That's what you want to do. We have a question right here. Oh yeah, happy Thanksgiving, Uncle John. Thank you so much over there in Canada. Got a comment here. What's your take on DeAndre Swift, or should I say lack thereof, which his role in the offense? Musa, you want to take that one?
I think they're finding out what role he really does play. I know we've seen some talks about people saying we should trade him. I don't think we'll get the value out of trading him, so I think he's worth keeping for that sake, unless we can get some decent value. But, I mean, he's injury prone, coming off injury, so I think he's just adapting to the NFL, getting back into it, coming off some injuries. So I think he'll find his role eventually here.
Yeah, they've got Justin Jackson in there, getting some carries, getting some yards on the ground, and they just have to figure it out if DeAndre Swift is the guy or not. Is he going to be somebody that can fight through injuries? Is he going to be somebody that can be resilient and play through? Maybe he's got some soreness or he's got something that's bugging him. Is he going to be able to fight through and take those extra hits, maybe throw some ice on it, and say, you know what, I'm doing this for my team, I'm doing this for the wins, and I'm doing this for the win streaks, right? Going 5-0 in 2011, that's too long ago. That's over 10 years ago if you're the Detroit Lions. You got to at least amount to that before now. And I think better late than never. That's what I always say, and I think Lions fans have been saying that for a very long time. So I think they're getting tired of saying it personally, but I think that there are bright sunrises on the horizon for Lions fans. Let's talk about this week's game, Thanksgiving Day. The Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. They always play. There's no committee. There's no voting process that will make this change. Okay, there's nothing that's going to change this. It's going to happen. It's going to be the same way, even if the Lions go 0-18 next year, which God forbid they don't. But if they do, that's going to be. It's a tradition, right? It's a tradition as old as time. So, what do we expect to see this week against the Bills? The Bills have already played in Ford Field. They know what it's like. They got 77 inches of snow in Buffalo. They know what snow is all about, right? They know what lots of snow is all about. So they played in Ford Field this past weekend and beat the Browns 31-23. What do we have to expect this weekend? Do the Lions have a chance, or is it going to be a bloodbath?
I think it's going to be a coin flip. I think it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be some great football. I think both teams put over 30 points on the board. That's where I'm at. And I think the Bills are going to take their first defeat in Ford Field.
Wow, bold take right there. But coming from a Lions fan, I respect it. And I've told you this before we hit record here. I'm torn because there's nothing better than a Lions win on Thanksgiving Day. It just makes the day a little better, makes the turkey taste a little better. You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of torn. Bills Mafia at the same time. It's like a tug of war, right? Here's the question for me. Will I be more happier with a Lions win or a Bills win? I think I would be more happy with a Lions win. I'm going to be happy either way, right? There's nothing that's going to kill my happiness Thanksgiving. I will be more happy with the Lions win, and I'm going down a limb, and I'll tell you why I say this. Because, one, it's for the tradition, it's for the culture, it's for one pride, and it's the Lions going 4-0 in their last four. And if you're a Lions guy, if you're talking about the Lions, you're talking about the baby steps that they have to take. And the journey at the end of the day is to make it to the playoffs. Make it to the playoffs, get a playoff win. We haven't seen that in probably a couple decades. So that's the milestones that you're trying to reach. Okay? Got a comment here again. He's killing me in fantasy. He's talking about DeAndre Swift. He's killing me in fantasy, but at the same time, if Jamal is the better back, then you got to ride with the better back. But damn, I'm just thinking DeAndre is better suited for two-hand touch football rather than tackle because the man can't stay healthy. Jamal Williams, he's solid. He can take a hit. He's not going to get injury. He's not injury-prone like DeAndre Swift is. How do you feel about Jamal Williams over DeAndre Swift being RB1 for the Lions, Musa?
I want to go back to your point earlier.
Okay.
You wanted Swift to fight through injuries.
I do.
The team never gave. I would love to see it, but there's never been a reason for him to do that. It wasn't like the playoffs were on the line. It wasn't like the Super Bowl was on the line. They were just 1-2 wins on the line to go like 3-16 or whatever, 3-14. So, I mean, there was never really a reason for Swift to fight through injuries, but now there is. So I want to see how he plays when there is a reason for him to keep playing and actually fight for this team that's in a good spot. So I think that's a big factor.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. But I guess what I would say to that is you always got to have that Mamba mentality. I still think about Kobe and his passing, and it ruins my day when I think about it. I try not to think about it because it kills me inside. Okay, so I think about that. I try to emulate the Mamba mentality across sports, across life. Have the Mamba mentality in whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're doing. Go out. I don't care if you're playing for nothing, if you're playing for a Super Bowl, whatever. Show me all you got. And obviously you got to take that with a grain of salt when I say that. You know, it sounds like a ruthless mentality. I don't want these guys playing hurt. If they got torn ACLs, I don't want them out there taking handoffs, trying to, run midline up the middle. But I'm saying if you're banged up, if you have some slight injuries, some soreness, something that could be played through, if you are the man for the job, If you are the RB1, then I expect you to go out and take the field and show me the best that you got. If you're not able to compete at the highest level, then by all means, let Jamal Williams hop in there and take your place, because he's happy to do that. That's why he is there. That's why he's in that position. I'm happy to say I believe I still have Jamal Williams on one of my fantasy teams. Don't quote me on that. But I have Jamal Williams, and he's been a great RB2 for me when he does receive touches and in lieu of DeAndre Swift being the RB1. So I guess I want to see him play with thicker skin. You talk about Matt Stafford. He had Mamba mentality when they played against that game. They always play replays about it against the Browns. That one game where he played, he was hurt. He was down bad. And he played through it, and they wound up winning the game. Obviously, a quarterback is a little less interchangeable than a running back, I guess. But at the end of the day, that's the mentality I expect to see from everybody on the field. I don't care if you're talking about a lineman. I don't care if you're talking about a slot receiver, if you're talking about a defensive end. I got to see the Mamba mentality, because that will earn a lot more respect from me and coaches and fans in the long run from everybody. So I guess that's all I really had to say about that. But by all means, if he's healthy enough to play RB1 and play and run hard, run downhill, make contact, be the hammer, not the nail, then that's all we really need from him. So that's what I expect from DeAndre Swift. And I think he's a good enough back to be able to produce that for this Lions team, especially now they have something to fight
We've seen
for.
The potential.
We do.
We've
I see
seen
it.
We've seen the potential.
We know he's
He has
good.
a huge upside.
Has a huge upside. I want to take advantage of that upside, because right now the Lions are giving non-Lions fans like me, they're giving something to hope for. They're giving someone something to fight for. And that's something that the Lions and Lions fans, the Lions fan base, One Pride, has not felt for a long time. And it's you see the vision now. Things were bleak. We were 1-5 a couple weeks ago. Things were bleak. Things were not looking good. They were going down a path that was a very familiar path. That was a path of defeat, a path of disgrace, a path of sorrow. But now it's different. Things are different. The tide has changed. Let's see what they can do.
I mean, Lions could lose every single game this year, and I'll still be happy. They went 3-0. That's all. They showed improvement. So, but like you said, back in 2011, they went 5-0. If they beat this Bills team, it's very, very possible they do go 5-0, because the next team they have is the Jaguars. And I think if they beat the Bills, they beat the Giants, the Jaguars is an easy take. Now, I'm going to settle back down into reality a little bit and give this game to the Bills. Let's say the Bills win this game. The playoff hopes are not over. They can lose to the Bills, and they can lose to the Vikings, and they're in the playoffs still. Now, honestly, with the way the Vikings have been playing recently, the Lions can very possibly beat the Vikings. They had a very close game at the beginning of the year, and then the Vikings just lost, 40-3? Something against Dallas, something crazy. Either way, they didn't score a single touchdown. Vikings play like that again this week. They're going to be scared. The Lions are going to be coming in, and they can take over and win this game. Another game the Lions have are the Jets. I think that's the next close game, but I think the Lions they can take the Jets. The Jets are in shambles. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Zach Wilson might be benched. It's all up in the air. That's something you want as a Lions fan when you're going into that game. You want the other team to be in shambles. You want the other team not to know who their quarterback is and not know, because that's helpful for us. Even if the Jets team has a good record, but they're not like a super great team like a Bills team, like some of these other teams. So they don't have that kind of talent.
Yeah, I agree. And seeing the Dallas Cowboys beat the Minnesota Vikings, which they had potential to be up there with the Eagles. You talk about power rankings across the entire league, and they're sitting there number 2, number 3 in a lot of projection sheets. So seeing that happen, that stirs the pot. You see the Lions, if they beat the Bills this week, that stirs the pot. At that point, anybody can beat anybody, essentially. You're looking at some of the best teams, without the Eagles and the Ravens and some other big heavy hitters being included in that scenario. You got teams beating teams that really shouldn't be beating these teams, and seeing that happen, that stirs the entire pot. Uh, if you're the Lions, you want to be able to incur some of those insurance wins. If you can beat the Vikings, that's not only a big win for your track record, but that's a big win in the NFC North. Okay? Now, are you going to wind up being first in the NFC North? No, probably not. I think the Minnesota Vikings have enough leeway. They have enough gap. They have enough of a gap there where they're not going to be caught. So you're not worried about the NFC North, though. You're worried about wins and losses. So if you can get one of those insurance wins, I would even throw the Jets in there as an insurance win. Maybe not, though. One of those have to not be an insurance win. You have 2 losses left on your possibilities sheet. If you lose 2 more, then you can't lose any more. If you lose 3, you're probably out. So there's options. There's still room for movement. I'm saying there's a chance, definitely. I'm definitely saying there's a chance. With this momentum, and you have this type of momentum with this team, any team really, you got Dan Campbell on your back. You got him screaming at you in the locker room, boosting your morale, and telling you what to do, telling you to bite kneecaps off of the opponent. Anything's possible. I'm not going to say anything is impossible, and the craziness has only just begun, I think, in the whole pandemonium of the playoff race and power rankings in the NFL. I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg when it comes to who's the best of the best. So I'm excited to see who will rise to the top because I don't think we've seen the best yet.
There is a world where the Lions lose to the Bills, lose to the Vikings, and lose to the Jets and still make the playoffs. Now, other teams need to fall in place. Other teams need to take some losses. But it's very possible that does happen. So you don't want that to happen, though.
You don't want that to have to happen.
You want to be in the playoffs because you made it there, not because some teams took losses.
Exactly. You want to make it because you deserve to be there, not by a fluke. And if you still get there by a fluke, then at least you're still there, I guess. But it loses some of the luster than if you got there based on wins and losses in your record and your power rankings and everything like that. That's more admirable. So it is what it is. Good deal. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Moose, do you got any final thoughts, final words for the people out there going into Thanksgiving week?
Just to recap everything, we went over Nathaniel Hackett giving up play calling, Jeff Saturday, and the Colts nearly beating the Eagles. Washington 6-5 right now, and then obviously the Lions. So I think we got a good spread of content in, and we could talk about the Lions all night. We could have a whole day just for Lions talk. And really for any of these teams, we could talk about them over and over again. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great Thanksgiving either way. And for Lions fans, just even if they don't make the playoffs this year, if they get 2 more wins, that's a huge improvement on last year, and you see the culture being built. So I think the Lions got what they needed to see out of Dan Campbell. They got that. They see the culture being built and the players taking after it. So I think we have something to look forward to finally. And a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was like, same old Lions. Now I'm excited.
We'll see. I have to see what happens going down the stretch here. Still got 8 games left in the regular season. A lot can happen. A lot of shifting can take place. And like I said, and I'm going to go back to this exact episode. This is the 14th edition of Double Coverage. I'm going to come back to this episode and say the best is yet to come because I'm very excited for it. And to comment on what you said, Musa, there's a lot that we covered, but there's also a lot that we didn't cover. So it's a long season. It's a long season, basically. And I'm really excited for this playoff season, the postseason. Who's going to rise to the top? Are we going to see the grandfathers of the NFL come back into it? Packers are probably done. The Bucks, they've been playing well. They're coming off a bye. I'm expecting high hopes for them, too. I'm expecting Tom Brady to make
Get Brady into the playoffs. I mean, Brady in the playoffs is scary. He has the most experience in the playoffs, so you don't want Brady in the playoffs.
If you can shut Brady out and eliminate the Bucks from the playoff run, then you have done something. Everyone that has gave the Bucks a loss and handed them a loss needs an award because they contributed to keeping the Bucks out. I'm a huge Bucks fan too. Huge Brady guy, huge Bucks guy. I was a big Gronk guy when he still played. But I mean, if you can do that, that's a feat that is worthy of an award and worthy of credibility and credentials. So, but like you said, if you get Brady to the playoffs, then he's going to be very hard to beat. So, good deal. We'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Double Coverage. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. Our Twitter is GinPros, at GinPros on Twitter, at Gin Sports Network, and at Gin Promotions on Instagram. And be sure to check out our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all of our content, articles, IG posts, etc. And we'll leave it at that. We actually got one more comment here. We have to address it before we sign off. What do you think the Lions' biggest need is going into next year's draft with their first pick? Are you happy with Goff, or do you make that your first round pick to replace him, or would you entertain giving the Ravens your 2 first round picks for Lamar? What do you have to say to that, Musa?
No. You don't replace Goff because our picks are going to be a little too high up for that. And Goff's shown potential. Goff is playing good under this offense. If you give Goff the weapons he needs and give him the team, he's a system quarterback. He'll get it done. In terms of Lamar, you're gonna have to pay Lamar way too much. You're gonna have to send way too much to get Lamar, and I don't think he's gonna add that much value that you're gonna have to give. I think our biggest thing is we need to fix our defense. The defense is finally playing better, but I think our main focus is fix this defense, and that's the main area because we have Jameson Williams coming back, so that will be another weapon for Goff. And give Goff the weapons, he will take you to a Super Bowl. Now, I don't think he is the long-term guy, but I think you wait another year with Goff because he hasn't given you a reason to give up on him.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let him simmer. Let him kind of settle in as the QB, and still getting used to Detroit. Still getting used to it. So you got to give him some time and feel out what he has capability to do, because I think that his full potential has yet to be tapped, and we'll have to see what happens, especially when Jameson Williams comes back. So there's a high potential rate, and there's a high ceiling for Jared Goff in the pocket at the Detroit Lions, with the Detroit Lions. So I think that the best is yet to come with Goff as well. And only time will tell. We'll have to see what happens with that. But we'll let you go, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into Double Coverage. I'll be in touch. I want to thank you all and wish you guys a very happy Thanksgiving from Musa and myself and all of us at GSN. Happy Thanksgiving, and have a safe Black Friday and rest of your Thanksgiving weekend, and we'll talk very soon. I've been John J. II here with Double Coverage and GSN.